Welcome back, focused learners. Today, we're diving straight into a massive cosmic whodunit. We are launching an impartial investigation into some of humanity's oldest, most suppressed esoteric texts. And let me tell you, these texts attempt to completely redefine the very nature of reality. So let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. If you've ever looked around and felt like, I don't know, the cosmic paperwork of our universe just doesn't quite add up, well, we have to start with the ultimate problem of evil. It's this incredibly uncomfortable observation that has haunted deep thinkers literally for millennia. I mean, think about it. If the deity running the show is perfectly loving, all-knowing, and all-powerful, then this universe, it can look like a spectacular management failure. We live on this planet capable of profound beauty, mathematics, and love, yet it's also a system where things like parasitic wasps, childhood diseases, and just industrial-scale suffering are built-in features, they aren't bugs. To many ancient thinkers, this raised a massive, unavoidable question. Is this intelligent design, or is something else fundamentally going on behind the scenes? Now, you might think questioning the creator is just some fringe, out-there idea, right? But the seeds of it are actually hidden in plain sight. Even canonical, mainstream biblical texts candidly hint at this, containing phrasing that fueled alternative interpretations. Just look at this quote from the Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians. He casually drops a reference to the God of this age, who acts as a blinding adversarial force. To esoteric readers, this sets up our central mystery perfectly. If the true, ultimate God isn't the one blinding people and running the material world, then who exactly is in the driver's seat? To answer that, we turn to the Nag Hammadi texts, which were discovered hidden in an Egyptian jar back in 1945, and they reveal a totally shocking culprit. Enter the Demiurge, often called Yaldabaoth. In the Gnostic framework, this guy is absolutely not the infinite loving source of all creation. Instead, Yaldabaoth is, well, he's essentially an unaware middle manager. He's described as a lesser, flawed creator deity who built our flawed material world. And here's the kicker. He genuinely believes he is the supreme, absolute ruler. According to these texts, he's making cosmic decisions way above his pay grade with absolutely zero self-awareness. Let's move to and see how this builds, because this framework relies on a highly specific creation sequence. First, you have the monad. That's the true, invisible, infinite spirit. But then a divine emanation named Sophia, or wisdom, accidentally conceives a thought entirely on her own, and it produces an imperfect, deformed entity. And yep, that's Yaldabaoth. He wakes up in a void, completely ignorant of the higher realms above him, and just starts building our physical universe. But the texts introduce a massive plot twist here. When he breathes life into humanity to create a labor force, he accidentally transfers a stolen spark of true divine light right into us. So in this narrative, humans literally become the accidental repositories of the ultimate truth. And that brings us to a highly provocative theological critique from antiquity. The Gnostic texts actually mirror traditional scripture, where the creator notoriously declares, I am a jealous God, and there is no other God beside me. Well, the Gnostics pointed out a pretty brilliant logical question here. They asked, wait a minute, if there is truly no other God in existence, who exactly are you jealous of? I mean, jealousy implies a fear of competition, right? To these ancient mystics, this declaration wasn't proof of supreme, unshakable power. No, it was read as a full-on confession of cosmic limitation and deep insecurity. Now, what's really interesting here is how the Demiurge's realm is actually structured. Yaldabaoth, who is sometimes called Samiel or the blind god, doesn't operate alone. He uses Archons. These are basically planetary rulers. But rather than viewing them as, pitchfork-wielding red-horned demons, the ancient texts describe them much more like autonomous sub-programs. Think of them as corporate middle management. They enforce rigid institutional laws, they stoke fear of divine punishment, and they demand compulsive worship of external authority. They act as the suffocating bureaucracy of the material matrix, completely designed to keep that divine spark trapped in compliance. So, if the architect of this flawed material world is really just a middle manager with a serious ego problem, it begs the ultimate question. Who is the true divine source? If we bypass the Demiurge entirely, what do humanity's oldest, unedited, and most profound mystical traditions reveal about the actual boss of the cosmos? What is absolutely staggering here is the total synthesis you find across entirely different ancient cultures. When you look at Hindu Vedanta, you find Brahman, pure being and consciousness. Jump over to Taoism, and it's the Tao, which flows everywhere but never ever takes credit for anything. Hermeticism calls it the all, the very cause of mind and light. And in Jewish mysticism, like Kabbalah, it is Ein Sof, the infinite reality completely beyond judgment. Separated by oceans and centuries, these traditions perfectly agreed on one thing. The true God isn't some person sitting on a throne. It is pure, boundless consciousness with absolutely zero ego. The juxtaposition here is just stark. Think about it. The Demiurge is constantly demanding worship, requires sacrifices, gets horribly jealous, and issues these harsh judgments. But on the flip side, the true God is consistently described as pure awareness and unconditional, non-interfering love. Within this framework, and truly infinite, all-encompassing reality has absolutely no lack and therefore no unfulfilled needs. The desire for worship, the need for humans to constantly validate it with applause, is viewed as a glaring red flag of a wildly insecure deity. The true source just shines. It's like the sun, expecting absolutely nothing in return. So in these traditions, the God who judges is definitively not the God who is. They suggest that the highest source doesn't sit in some cosmic courtroom issuing arbitrary, vindictive verdicts. Instead, the universe just operates on universal, impersonal, natural laws. Whether it's karma in the East or the law of correspondence in Hermeticism, consequences just naturally follow actions. It's exactly like gravity. Gravity doesn't judge you when you fall, right? It just operates. The law runs itself, meaning the true divine source is completely free to simply be the ground of absolute love. Now, if we take this framework and apply it to the most famous origin story in Western history, we crack open a massive mystery box. What if the story of the Garden of Eden has been read completely upside down for millennia? What if the roles of the hero and the villain were actually entirely inverted by the authors who ended up winning the historical narrative? Looking closely at the truly radical Gnostic stance on Genesis, we find a fascinating flip. Their texts claim the Demiurge forbade the fruit of knowledge because, well, he wanted to keep humanity as ignorant slaves. In this version, the serpent was actually an emissary of truth. He was sent by the higher divine, Sophia, specifically to liberate human consciousness and wake humanity up. So in this view, eating the fruit wasn't a tragic fall into sin at all. It was literally the first step towards spiritual awakening. It heavily parallels the Greek myth of Prometheus, the light-bringer who was brutally punished by the ruling gods just for giving humanity the fire of consciousness. So the crucial point is that this framework completely redefines our entire concept of wrongdoing. In this view, sin is not some moral failure. It isn't about breaking an arbitrary rule from management. In the original texts, the Greek word hamartia meant to simply miss the mark. For the Gnostics, the root of all human suffering is ignoia, which means ignorance. It's forgetting your true divine nature. You aren't fundamentally bad. You're just asleep, wandering through this material matrix, totally unaware of the pure light inside you. And this brilliantly illustrates a truly striking cross-cultural parallel. Look at how Gnostic Christianity and Buddhism, two entirely separate ancient traditions, share the exact same cosmic diagnosis. For Gnostics, the core problem is agnoa, ignorance, and the ultimate solution is gnosis, or direct awakening. For Buddhists, the root of suffering is avidya, non-seeing delusion, and the cure is bodhi, awakening. They independently came to the exact same conclusion. Humanity's ultimate struggle is shaking off the sleep of the material world. Now, these lofty, esoteric theologies actually translate down into very practical, real-world ethics. Across these texts, we find what we can call the 7 universal violations against consciousness itself. Because we all share that divine spark, these actions literally harm the fabric of reality. We're talking about willful ignorance, conscious cruelty, deception, treating others as mere instruments for exploitation, numbing out and abandoning your awareness, destruction of the natural world, and perpetuating endless cycles of retributive harm. In these traditions, these actions aren't viewed as bad just because some cosmic rulebook says so. They're bad because they actively attack the divine light within the collective. To beautifully summarize this massive shift away from rigid, fear-based demiurgic control systems, we can actually look to the 13th century Sufi mystic, Rumi. He famously wrote, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." That one line perfectly encapsulates the mystic goal. It's about stepping completely out of the courtroom and into the boundless, expansive spiritual awareness of the true source. We're going to leave you today with a really profound question, pulled directly from the Gospel of Thomas. If the ultimate divine kingdom is both inside of you and outside of you, meaning you are literally carrying the uncreated spark of the true universe, what changes in your life when you finally realize who you are? It might just be time to check your cosmic paperwork, deeply question the structures around you, and awaken to the true source.
Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep seeking the light, and I'll see you next time.